data centers,
Mm-hmm.
which means if we're not going to build these things, China's going to win.
Yep. That's the downside.
That's the downside. China is absolutely going to win and dominate the AI war. You will still have AI, but it will be Chinese Communist Party AI, and it'll be inside of literally everything.
And that'll be at a tremendous cost to the national security interest of this country.
Incredible cost. Or the world can use our AI and we'll dominate.
Yeah, there you go. There is that.
You know, either way, somebody is going to win. And President Trump keeps trying to explain this.
Yeah.
Powerline put it this way: the Chinese Communist Party knows if it wins this race, it will contribute greatly to its dreams of world domination. Well, if it loses, China, with its rapidly shrinking population, could be on the way to the garbage dump of history. So the stakes are enormous. For many years, as we know, and even Hillary Clinton admitted on the campaign trail, Soviet Union, then Russia, financed the environmental movement in the United States. Their purpose was to suppress American production of oil and gas. Mm-hmm. China is doing that now.
With technology. Yeah.
And we just made major gains, and by the way, in partnership with the Democrat Party.
Yeah.
To subvert America's chances of dominating the future, which is insane. We'll get to that in a minute. We just made a major discovery. Thank God for Elon Musk. I think I say that once a day. Yeah. Maybe twice. I don't know if he's having a good day.
Yes.
You know, on the side.
Oddly, his stock goes up when you say that. So
I know. On the side, he's saving Western civilization. Free speech is just sort of hobbies and special interest,
exactly.
right? In addition to running his empire, he just announced overnightly a bot farm. They have detected a bot farm operating on X. It is run by over 100 main Chinese bots. And the bot farm itself is about 200,000 X accounts. So this is just the X version of it. And what it does, Lee, is it pumps out anti-data center propaganda, highly specialized. So if your fight's in Spartanburg, if it's in Utah, if it's in Virginia, it will act like grassroots local accounts. Mm-hmm. There's 200,000 of them, and this bot farm was highly flexible, and it could pivot back and forth, and literally had gotten so good it could make data center topics trend. Elon Musk says it violates their authenticity policy, and he is shutting the entire thing down. So, well, and we've talked about this, just the absolute fake news around this and panic that has been generated. One of the big things is water use.
Yeah, and that's a legitimate claim.
It is, but our golf courses use more water.
Yeah, there is that, yes.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So I mean, I just maybe golf course versus data center. I think go with the data centers. We really need them. Golf is kind of a dying sport as far as local participation.
All you fans
anyway,
of avocados, check with California about how much water the farmers out there use.
They use more water on avocados than they do on data centers. But I mean, all of this is coming from communist China, from the Chinese Communist Party and the Democrats, specifically a coordinated campaign led by national echo groups that are funneling Chinese money into a lot of their operations. The same group spent $150 million electing Democrats before pivoting to target data center development nationwide. So if you look at who's leading this and who really started this, was Bernie Sanders at AOC.
Yes, in connection with the Chinese Communist Party.
Yes, absolutely. And that kind of goes with our theme of the Chinese Communist Party taking over the Democrat Party. Kevin,
at least the socialist wing of it, for sure.
Yes. And their number one goal right now seems to be to gut U.S. innovation and make sure we lose the race to China and are ultimately dominated by them. And that will absolutely happen if AI takes over. It will dominate, even propaganda-wise, will dominate every aspect of American
The Chinese
life.
Communist Party is going to do anything it can do on any platform, any level, to dominate and to dissuade the American public from becoming a top at anything, whether this is the economics, whether it is military, diplomatic, social, culture, anything. they are going to be in opposition to anything that makes America look successful. They are the antithesis of Make America Great Again.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. It's absolutely the opposite. It's like yin yang.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, right.
And when you have the New York Times saying China now controls who wins the primaries in New York City more than any other entity, and where is the epicenter of this battle against data centers? We just passed a law banning them in New York, which is hilarious to me because people are using AI all day long, right? And they expect it to still like somehow be there.
Yeah.
You know, why it's become a part of everything, and yet somehow we're not going to have the data centers to generate it.
Well, the other ironic thing is that the party that warned us about Russian involvement in American elections is now siding with the Communist Party in China to influence American elections.
Yeah, to gut America's
Once
future.
Again, what they accuse you of is what they're doing.
And they've done it in two ways. I played a ton of audio on this. Number one, China gutting us on the energy front so that we do not have enough energy. We could have a ton more energy. We got a lot of it. No. Leave it in the ground. Be environmentally friendly while we open another coal plant a week here in China.
Or 3.
Right, and take all your manufacturing. So that's one part of it. And then there's the water part. A lot of the stuff around that is completely fake. Here is National Review saying, look, data centers consume 17.4 billion gallons of water each year. It sounds like a lot until you realize the nation consumes tens of trillions of gallons. And they're saying even accounting for electricity generation, water consumption to generate, it's still less than 1% of the country's total water consumption. And data centers' water demands are expected to grow dramatically. But National Review points out they have to go through the process of acquiring water just as any other business or development does, either by buying water rights from existing holders or applying for a new withdrawal permit, depending on the location. So they don't just, walk up to the water supply and hook up to it. It doesn't work like that.
Also, if my understanding is correct, the water is used for cooling the file servers. So if you were using the water for cooling, it circulates through the cooling system and then exits.
Yes, and National Review pointing out the data centers are now beginning to use recycled water.
Right.
They're getting better, and they should.
Yeah,
they should.
Absolutely.
I'm convinced instead of, hey, shut it down, don't let it happen, there's got to be a way we can make this work.
It has to be.
We're just too innovative a country instead of just going, oh, we give up, China said so.
Right.
Kevin O'Leary right now hired a team of investigators to study how this was defeated in Utah. It was a big data center, was supposed to go there. He worked on the project and he was frustrated, on doing the PR on the pro data center side. And he was frustrated because almost all of the talking points were completely fake and made up, came out of nowhere. They terrified the people there in Utah, and ultimately the project lost. So he wanted to know this is tens of millions of dollars worth of propaganda pumped into a small state like Utah. Where was it coming from, Lee?
And I would argue today, if we're going to find a cure for cancer, it's going to be through AI. If we're going to democratize education, it'll be through AI. If we're going to do some advances on space research and travel, it'll be through AI. Productivity in the S&P 500, and it's all small companies, AI. And you can't have it without data centers. You actually need the underpinnings, the infrastructure. And so that debate, that narrative's going on. But there's a dark side to this that I've only started to bring forward in the last couple of weeks. I discovered this in Utah, that there are some nefarious forces. I didn't know anything about it, but I was wondering who was spending all the money in Utah with all that misinformation about what the data center was going to be, talking about using water we weren't, or using power we had no intention to, or 40,000 acres. That's complete BS. It was all lies. And I said, who could afford that? So I've hired a bunch of forensic auditors, and lo and behold, it took me back to the Chinese in Utah, and I caught them through the IRS 990 filings, and I handed it over to the White House and to a bunch of special agents. And I just wonder what's going to happen next.
Unbelievable.
Oh,
go ahead. What?
We are at war.
Yeah,
And
we're at war.
we don't understand this.
No, we don't.
We are at war with the Chinese Communist Party, and we are at war with an Islamic Marxist movement in a major American party. We are at war.
We are. And they are winning on this front, although it's good that he's turned all this over to the White House. Neville Singham, again, the billionaire who defected from America, joined the Chinese Communist Party and now operates out of the same building as the Chinese Communist Party headquarters, is behind running a lot of the dark money through this. That's what Kevin O'Leary found. He's suing him now, saying it's not true. But just anyway, the big news here being Elon Musk found that massive bot farm, 200,000 bots run by the Chinese out of China on X, pretending to be, grandma from West Virginia who just doesn't want to. No, she's Chinese Communist Party who doesn't want to, data center folks. We got to get real news on this. And so good for Elon Musk for doing that. It was one of those moments I'll never forget because I realized something was deeply wrong. Jeb Bush running for president at the Hamptons. Massive spread, serving the best cuts of steak, food piled high, fundraiser for over 200 key Democrat donors to sell them on the idea that Jeb could be the unity candidate. He meant compromise. Anyway, Jeb gave some stupid speech. There's one part of it sticks out in my mind. It's burned there forever. 3 words. Manage the decline. Manage the decline. He was going to manage the decline. He was going to smartly manage the decline. And I wanted to come out of my seat in outrage. The decline of my children's and grandchildren's future? Yeah, it's hip. We'll just manage the decline. Why decline? He didn't say. Manage the decline. The plan even then was for decline. More than 10 years ago. It was the plan. Now, he knew that Democrats would love to hear about the destruction of America, as long as they stayed rich. The donors. It was a theme even then. And so we've watched an entire generation of presidents, Bush 1, Bush 2, manage the decline without doing even the most basic things. Obama, Biden, they were actively destructive. Obama, Biden. The most simple, the most basic things, hey, we could do this to really help America. Like that would be in America's interest. No, we don't. Why? At the wine and cheese parties, that is an embarrassment. America is a patriarchy. We don't advocate for ourselves. We don't do smart things. Not us ever. That would be unfair. Like putting our finger on the scale. Yeah, like every other human being since the beginning of time, if they could. Basic human survival instinct, America lost it. But with what Trump's doing now, folks, huge deal in process with Venezuela, in which Trump is essentially saying, hey, why is Saudi Arabia running OPEC? That should be us. And OPEC should be regional. Deal in the offing with Venezuela, with their interim government, which is very friendly toward us since they have a gun pointed at their head and all, about taking an ownership stake, America taking an ownership stake in the South American country's enormous oil reserves. The historic deal would more than double U.S. oil reserves by drawing from a country that has the world's largest proven reserves, about 90 billion barrels. Used to be controlled, by the way, those 90 billion barrels by former Venezuelan leaders, as well as interests once controlled by China. And the Venezuelan leaders were controlled by China very much so. In return for giving the U.S. an ownership stake, Venezuela's government would benefit from private companies, including American firms, developing the fields and returning more oil revenue to that country. So not only are we getting the oil, we'll pay them for it, we're not going to steal it, but not only are we getting the oil, but we're taking it from radical leftists and China. Nice. And just simple thing. Like, why should Saudi Arabia run OPEC? Why shouldn't we be the power broker? Which leads to the second news story around this from Bloomberg. Headline, Venezuela has been discussing leaving OPEC with U.S. officials. This comes amid reports that the U.S. is negotiating a deal to take a large stake in Venezuelan oil fields. Some U.S. officials reportedly envision an oil powerhouse in this hemisphere. So this is the Don Rowe Doctrine. Oil powerhouse in this hemisphere built from an alliance between the U.S. and Venezuela that could greatly diminish OPEC's influence. So fingers crossed, OPEC appears to be on the verge of losing its second member in 4 months. And you know what, folks? This, just now spilling out into the public. Maybe we make it, maybe we don't. Maybe this works out, maybe it doesn't. That oil is flowing again to those Gulf refineries. Gulf of America refineries. Not Gulf in the Persian somewhere. As it should be. Why? Because the mentality in a swamp for a long time is we don't do anything to advocate for ourselves or help ourselves ever. We just let other countries eat our lunch. That's got to end. It's got to end. All right, coming up on the show, speaking of China, which has now been, as we've learned in recent months, been running a shadow electorate in America where fake people vote. Votes count for real. Wait till you hear what the Trump administration is doing and having to do. It's very smart. Now, we're going to see probably some liberal judge defy the Supreme Court and put a nationwide injunction on it, even though the Supreme Court said liberal judges cannot put nationwide injunctions. They can only rule in their small federal districts. Wait till you hear what's going on, folks. You're going to hear the Democrats go insane as China's ability to meddle in our elections is curbed by the Trump administration. They are going to sue on behalf of China being able to meddle in our elections. I'll explain coming up. While the media pretends that the FBI did not assess that the Communist Chinese Party and Iran hacked our boards of elections, downloaded internal data that Trump still can't get from the Democrats. He's suing them for the voter list. They took it. And then used it to create fake driver's licenses. They then flew back into the country. We didn't catch all of them, but we caught a tranche of 19,000 coming through Chicago O'Hare. Customs Border Patrol caught it. These are indisputable facts. The FBI assessed them, then classified them, and didn't tell Congress. Just tell Chinese cheat. In fact, the FBI specifically assessed that those licenses were being used to assist Joe Biden. It's incredible. If I could tell the American people one thing, it would be that. I put it on my Twitter feed. I put an actual screenshot of the FBI's assessment. This is incredibly dangerous stuff. Again, their assessment, not mine. You were never supposed to see it. They'd put it behind the wall, and they have a firewall in their server in order to illegally defy congressional subpoenas. Kash Patel got a hold of it. So again, the FBI, not me, assessed in May of 2020 that China was moving these licenses in. They were being distributed to Chinese nationals who would then use them to commit mass mail-in ballot voting fraud. You know, isn't it weird that those licenses came from the same place as COVID, the excuse for the mass mail-in balloting fraud? I just think that's so weird. It was like, how did Fauci know to lie about COVID? He's writing in his own diary, it's not that deadly, it's no more deadly than the flu. And then he's going out on TV simultaneously and saying, oh, it's very deadly, we've got to shut everything down. Well, you know, it's too dangerous. Plus, we'll have to have mass mail-in balloting. Weird, right? It's what I want to find so bad, that link between China and Fauci. I want it bad. And I know it's there. It's got to be. Maybe secondary on, you know, it may be secondary or third, maybe passed along a conduit, but they had to be coordinated. They had to be. Had to be. Just as the need for massive Chinese mass mail-in ballot fraud occurs, we have the justification, the COVID, and we have the little rat lying about it. Anyway, that's a different story. The Trump administration believes in this, and they're taking it very seriously. As you know, winning a Supreme Court decision this week, temporary, we'll see if it holds up. Winning that Supreme Court decision, that through the USPS, they can make sure that all ballots mass mailed are coming and going from real, actual, living voters, not fake ones. Overnight, Mark Wayne Mullen, head of the Department of Homeland Security, announced how this system will work.
We are going to make our security enhancements mandatory, meaning that if these states want a grant and they want to be reimbursed to work or to run federal elections, they're going to have to implement security issues. Just security issues. We're not trying to get into anything else, but we're saying that the machines have to be secured and that your voter registration list needs to be scrubbed. We need to make sure that individuals that are legally able to vote are voting. We know that Iran hacked our state voter files and attempted to compromise, is the best word I can use, our systems where military members used to vote. So we're working with Secretary Hegseth and the DOW to safeguard those systems and protect our military voters.
Okay, so that's one aspect of it. Announcing yesterday that the Department of Homeland Security will be requiring mandatory random audits of paper ballots in the 2026 midterm election because of major vulnerabilities to tampering and foreign or Chinese involvement in the machines. Secretary Mullen says, quote, voting machines with components manufactured by foreign adversaries introduce significant security risks. These vulnerabilities mean that malicious actors could potentially compromise election infrastructure at any stage of the supply chain, even before the machines are assembled or deployed. Folks, we have seen this in our ports. We've seen this in our water treatment facilities. Wall Street Journal has reported it. China has compromised them. So that is going on. And as of right now, we'll see where we are by midterms. And folks, I don't know if we're going to be able to do this in midterms, but definitely by 2028. We have this, I'm telling you what, we have this in place. It's going to change everything. You're going to see a massive Republican wave. Why? Because Democrats can't steal. Here's how it works. Doge has built a database. Democrats are terrified of it. It allows you to check if any voter is in fact eligible to vote in a federal election, i.e. an American. It will produce lists to give to all the states of here's who's eligible. The states will then have an opportunity to say, hey, you left some Americans off. Democrats are going to say this is going to disenfranchise people. It won't. States have all kinds of opportunities to say, hey, you left off Mary Smith down there at the end of John Lane, and you need to add her. Okay. Send her name. We'll run her against the database. That database will determine what mass mail-in ballots go through the mail with a code coming and going. She's got a code when it goes to you and when it comes back or not. Mary Smith, who's really Juan Rodriguez, cartel member from Mexico, doesn't get to vote anymore. We're going to find out who he is. So Democrats are furiously trying to figure out how to stop this. But why would you want to stop this? You got to be an American to vote in a federal election. Why would you fight that? By the way, did you see this? The voter group most interested in voter ID. New poll. Yeah. Republican races. No. Black Americans. Even CNN can't hide it anymore. Shocking poll. Dropped. Harry Enton running it down. 76% of Black Americans demand, this is CNN, y'all, not Newsmax. 76% of Black Americans demand nationwide voter ID. 76, huh? Like even in Common Core math, that's definitely a majority, pretty big one. Yeah. So, folks, we need to pass the SAVE Act. We do. Democrat-loving rhinos are currently holding it up in the Senate. Senator Mike Lee, took him to the woodshed. And look, this is the amazing things we can do when we elect actual Republicans, not Democrats pretending to be Republicans, to the U.S. Senate. Here's Mike Lee.
We need the Save America Act, and we need it passed.
Warning
right now.
John Thune, who's still on vacation. So is Tim Scott on the beach there. Warning, we're going to lose control of the Senate, but one thing we could do to turn out Republican voters, get them fired up, would be to pass the SAVE Act. Really, we should try to win. Folks, you're never going to hear Democrats talk like this. They try to win.
We need the Save America Act, and we need it passed right now. John Thune, I'm calling on you and every other Senate Republican. Let's reconvene the Senate right now, and let's pass the Save America Act. Sure, we don't have 60 votes, but, we have a simple majority. And if we reconvene the Senate and announce we're going to debate the Save America Act until it passes, not going home, no recesses, no weekends until it passes, it would pass. It might pass with a couple of changes, but it would pass. Let's get this done now.
Proof that in America, in the age of technology, you can go from 0 to famous in 5 minutes. For stuff only your friends and neighbors would have known about before, maybe your students. Not much in this world I don't know what to make of, but this, y'all. Atlanta teacher being hailed as both a genius and a villain, depending on your perspective, for setting up a gas station in her classroom. I'm deliberately doing this when I know the kids are in the back seat in the car. We're not talking about ExxonMobil here. We're talking about a fart corner. Yeah, Dad, turn up the volume. Fart corner. You kids want a fart corner in your room. The fart corner, the teacher says, Atlanta teacher says, gives students a nice place to pass gas without leaving class and losing quality instruction time. But critics say this helps normalize a bodily function that it is very rude to do. In other words, makes society more crass. Before you know it, everybody's shopping at Walmart in their pajamas. Oh, wait, that's already happening. Candy Sydney Browning, 36-year-old second grade teacher, calls it her gas station. It's a specific spot where students go. She says it's the Gusty Winds area. She stocked it with air freshener, and the children know once you blow that you're supposed to spray till it goes away. Yes, it does rhyme. Once you blow, got to spray so it goes away. I have a weak stomach, she says, so I cannot take it all day long, especially after lunch. Oh, jeez. And so I was like, okay, I'm just going to create this little area over here. You just get up, you just go over there, you just do your business, you just come back, and that's it. Who else misses the good old civilized days when passing gas was considered rude? Anyway, Sydney Browning says she wants to normalize farts. They're a part of life, and we shouldn't have any shame about them. She's a Haitian migrant, by the way. I don't know if that's relevant, but it's in the story. She says she's very proud of her mature students who go to fart in the corner. Folks, I don't know about you, but when I was a kid, oh, no, you just deny. You never admit, no matter what, straight face, whole way. But you'll be a laughing stock for the rest of the year, maybe all the way through high school. How does this even work? I guess if everybody does it, nobody's special. I don't know. I mean, I can't imagine the courage it took for the first kid, they're second graders, for the first kid to go up there and do it. Because I tell you what, by second grade, if it was known you were the one who dealt it, you could have gotten some sort of nickname that went with you through high school. You might have to go to college in another state. I'm serious. Texter rates Tara, toot. Use toot. When I moved here from New York, I got a kick out of that Southern term. Yeah. Southern women. Who technically, by the way, do not ever toot. That's just to be clear. That's Northern women and these people out in California, not Southern women. I don't think this would work here. Or I don't know, maybe has society degenerated to the point that, I don't know. Fart corner. Can't wait to read the text on this one. 800-905-0989. Hey, kids, if you use the fart corner in school, tell your dad to text me. If you use the fart corner in school, would it be cool? Nobody care? Or you'd be a laughing stock? I just trying to figure it out. You know, Lee, you made a great point in the last hour saying, look, we're at war with China everywhere.
Yeah.
We are fully within a war. We are in a world war with China.
I would go so far as to say we are already at World War III. I
Yeah.
mean, if you look at all the conflicts that are going on and the number of countries that are involved and the number of battlefields where there's actual combat and conflict going on, World War III is already going on. It just hasn't gone nuclear yet, thankfully.
Yeah, and the war with Iran is a war with China. I mean, China.
Yeah, that too,
I call it
yes.
Chiran. I've been calling it. I mean, Iran is, Hamas is a proxy of Iran, but Iran's a proxy of China. I mean, China completely controls Iran. They literally overlaid the Huawei social credit score video camera monitoring software. It's the same system that they have in China to totally control those people. They have that in Iran. They control Iran, right? So why am I talking about being at war with China? When you look at the number of fronts we're at war with China on. I keep meaning to do a podcast on this. I'm up to 12. And not all of them are like countries and proxies with missiles and all of that stuff, right? One of them was just in the news that you just did. That lunatic judge, Sparkle Suknanen. If we had a real Republican Party, because let me tell you what, Democrats would never put up with this from a Republican judge.
Yep.
They'd be impeached so fast your head would spin. Every single Democrat voting in lockstep or thrown out of office if they didn't impeach that judge, as it should be. Sparkle, Suknanen is now, and this is gonna. I mean, we're gonna end up in a constitutional crisis, Lee. She is openly defying the Supreme Court as a lower level federal judge. The Supreme Court said you cannot put a nationwide injunction on Donald Trump just because you don't like him.
Right.
You can't do that. Federal judges serve in districts, think like Congress members, except they're appointed, they don't run for office, in districts. This would be like if our congressman's like, no, I think I'm going to be voting for the people of Michigan and I'll cast a vote over there for the people of California as well. I just feel like it today. Yeah. No, you can't do that. You can only cast one vote for the people in your district. You cannot put a nationwide injunction on the president, thus making yourself the president. Very famous Supreme Court ruling in the earlier part of the Trump administration. She defies it, Lee, and that's what you're laying out there. Defies it first time, telling, hey, this is a woman who's ordered Trump. Well, you can't look at the voter rolls. You can't look at the internal and compare them to the internal information in the Department of Homeland Security, FBI, and Social Security databases to find out if citizens are voting. You can't look. Are you kidding me? You can't look. No, you can't look at any of the internal documents in the executive branch because then you'd find all the fake voters Democrats put on the voter roll. I mean, you can't because reasons, civil rights. And the Supreme Court has said you can't do this, honey. And what did you do? Tell us again what you just reported.
That there's another injunction. Yeah.
Yes, she just ignores it.
Right.
So what this is an insurrection against the Supreme Court. Democrats keep saying, "Oh, you gotta follow the law, gotta follow the law, gotta be lawful." No, they're not. Democrat judges tells Trump you can't do that. Why? They're trying to buy time, get to the midterms,
Right,
cheat as
exactly.
much as possible,
Run the clock out.
run the clock out. Meanwhile, and you know how you know we're over the target?
Yeah, that's where the flack starts.
Yeah, that's where the flag starts. Look at this for what it is, okay? And this is the nullification of the Supreme Court. You know, we talk about states nullifying the federal government like Democrat states do with sanctuary policies. Right. This is the nullification of the Supreme Court, a new thing done only by Democrats, because if we tried it, there would be an absolute, I mean, they'd be burning buildings down.
Now, this is from the party that wants to pack the court, but then ignore the court.
Right.
Go figure.
But they're setting up a system where liberal judges defy Supreme Court rulings, saying, no, your jurisdiction is your federal district. You cannot put injunctions on the entire country, and you certainly can't enjoin the president. So, in other words, if she was going to file an injunction, right, say, this is unconstitutional for you to check the voter rolls of Democrat states and block them from illegally mailing ballots to people who are dead, not real, duplicate voters or illegal immigrants. Okay, she can do that in her very narrow judicial district, one little part of a state, or depending on the side of the state, half the state.
What some of these states are doing is mailing ballots to everybody on the roll. People who did not ask for an absentee ballot. They are mailing ballots to everybody.
And keep in mind, in California where this happens, I played a video on this. You can go register And if you allegedly don't have your documents proving you're an American citizen, just click the box saying you lost them and it'll register you anyway. And they'll automatically send you a document. This is why we need to do this. They're stealing Republican congressional seats in places like California, which, believe it or not, does field a fair number of Republican congressional seats. That's how they're doing it. So Democrats are going absolutely wild here because some genius, I don't know who it was in the Trump administration, came up with the idea. And it looks like so far, we'll see, but so far the courts are overturning the Democrat injunction on it. Donald Trump saying, okay, I'm the president. I got executive authority. Well, I control the USPS. So guess what? DOJ is going to run off a list of everybody who's an American citizen who can vote in a federal election. That'll be who gets to vote in your state. If somebody's not on that list, guess what? You can't send a ballot to them in the mail. And they can't send it back. Now, Democrats are going to go wild, screaming voter suppression, civil rights violation, right? But what Trump's executive order allows them to do is say, okay, Trump's going to give them a list. Here's who's eligible to vote. You're not on the list. You don't vote by mail.
Yeah.
Right? You can go vote in person.
Right. But
you can't go vote by mail. Why do they not worry about in-person voting? Because these people are fake. Okay? So you can't vote by mail. All right. Well, the states, upon receipt of that list produced by DOJ using the federal databases, can say, hey, listen, you left Mary Smith off of it. We've got these 25,000 voters over here who are American citizens. You made a mistake. They can submit them to the Trump administration, the United States Postal Services, for that list, their list, to be run through those databases. Oh, sorry, yes, we did miss Mary Smith. She can vote. But the Democrats are going to refuse to do that. And they're going to say, oh, people got left off. Well, submit their names. They gave you the list. Not hard. Take you just a few minutes in the morning. Run your list next to that list.
Yep.
And the reason we have to do this is because of Mitch McConnell's corpse and John Thune. Hey, I'm just going to assume he's a corpse until I see proof of life. Yeah. Isn't it crazy, Lee, that within 10 minutes of Dolly Parton being dead, we were able to confirm she actually is, sign of life, not life. God bless her. She was a wonderful woman. Yeah. Mitch McConnell, still an open question months later.
Yeah.
You know why they're keeping Mitch McConnell's corpse, or the rumor of it, being alive or not being alive, sketchy. Because remember, Mitch McConnell was a no vote on the SAVE Act, which we wouldn't have to do all this with the Postal Service. By law, Democrat states would have to turn their voter rolls over to inspect. All states would. Yeah. Notice how Republican states are not fighting that. They're not worried about turning their voter rolls over for inspection or to have them run against federal databases. Not a single Republican state's fighting it. What does that tell you? Anyway, so here's the thing. Mitch McConnell's corpse was a no vote on the SAVE Act while it could still stand, breathe, and function in the Senate. We haven't seen it since. And then his wife, of course, took a trip to where? Gosh, it all connects up. China.
Yeah, there you go.
And aren't those the people we're having to secure the election against? Weird. And Mitch McConnell, who got, how much again? $25 million through his wife's father's Chinese jointly owned shipping company as a gift. $25 million gift for doing nothing. It's amazing. Anyway, he was a no vote on the SAVE Act, right? And so if they couldn't continue with the delusion that he is still alive with a functioning brain, then the governor of Kentucky could have appointed a replacement. All of the ones that the Republican Party put forward, because by law he's got to choose from them. They changed the law in Kentucky. All of them were for the SAVE Act, Lee. So this would have been a disaster for the Democrat-Republican Party, the uniparty up there, because that would have flipped it from a no vote on the SAVE Act, -1 to +1, a 2-vote switch. They'd have absolutely the votes to pass it. So if you're wondering why you haven't seen signs of life from Mitch McConnell, not a dated video, nothing, that's why. They needed to maintain the illusion he was still at least breathing and alive so as to block the Republican Party of Kentucky from appointing his pro-SAVE Act replacement. This is Republicans doing this, by the way, in the Senate. So that deadline's passed, so we're stuck with the corpse until, January. All of this, Lee, to stop Trump from stopping China in partnership with the Democrat Party from stealing our elections. It's incredible. It's going to come down to the wire. Lee, I don't know if we could save the midterms from Chinese Democrat fraud, but then I repeat myself, they work together. But If we can save 28, I'm telling you what's going to happen. We're going to see a Republican landslide like you've never seen. And you know why? There's not going to be fake voting or not as much of it. And we're going to be walking around going, wait, where did all these Republican wins come from? Well, they were always there. We just got China and the Democrats out of the way. Text rates, hey Tara, on the Common Sense Retirement Planning text line 800-905-0989. Hey Tara, if we don't save the midterms, they ain't gonna be no 2028. Text rates, hey Tara, I just had a scary thought. What if Mitch McConnell's wife is filling in for him? South Carolina did it, I'm ashamed to say. Text rates, hey Tara, the 2020 election, I received 3 ballots from Georgia in the mail. I live in South Carolina. Now, wait, stop, rewind. Did you used to live? You guys got to give me the details. Did you used to live in Georgia? No. The reason I ask is because the Georgia Board of Elections, the commission had, and I played the video. Gosh, I'd have to dig it up. I don't have it in front of me right now. I've still got the audio. It's a guy who'd moved, I think he moved to Arizona or somewhere out west, and black guy. And he flew back to testify that he's been getting Georgia ballots for years. Not to him, but sent to somebody. And then somebody votes for him. For years. It's been going on for over a decade. So it shows them mailing him a ballot, and he flew in to testify. Look, they mail it. I didn't realize I was still on the list. I don't get it, but I don't know who did. Who does? Somebody voted. Texter writes, hey, Tara, I called Mitch McConnell last night. Spoke with him, and he said to pass the SAVE Act. Everybody's talking to him, but no one seems to record him. It's the strangest thing in the area of everything on earth being recorded all the time. No. You guys. So, no, you got to, I love what catches fire here, quite literally. This fart corner. No, is this a throwaway? Did this teacher down in Atlanta? The kids would say, I have to go to the bathroom, So she'd be like, you know what? Fart corner. She put some aerosol there. She'd point and click, turn the rear end. Yep, aim into the corner and then spray. She says she can't stand the smell, especially after lunch, and she's tired of kids missing instructional time. Anyway, she says it works. They all do it. I was amazed. The second graders. I was amazed by this, okay? Because, if you were the kid who went and farted in the corner when I was a kid, your reputation would be tarnished straight through college. You didn't have to go to college in another state because they'd give you a name. You know how you get a name, right? Do you get a name? They'd give you a name, and that would be it. You'd be in second grade, didn't matter. By the time you were junior inside, like sophomore, junior high school, kids would still be calling you by your fart name, whatever they gave you. You can't do that. So I was like, just wait. The thing that they'd never tell you in this article, she says, yeah, they use it. How many? 1 or 2 or all of them? Who went first? Oh, that'd be terror in school. When I was in school, but there was shame, though, when I was in school. There's no shame now, I guess. Texter writes, speaking of fire, my late husband told me that his brother farted on a cigarette lighter and a huge flame shot out. Does that work? I don't know. Texter writes, Terry, you know those boys in the classroom are going to have a toot competition in that corner. Also, what happens if the kid doesn't make it to the corner? I don't know. The article didn't say. I guess you're right. The boys might enjoy that. Girls would get a name, though. They would. Texter writes, Tara, this information that's coming out regarding the data centers is just the second wave of the misinformation after the whole COVID debacle. Yes, because that was to advantage China, destroy Trump's his administration, yes, but destroy Trump's economy, shut down all the businesses, shut down the boards of elections so that the Democrats and China could then do election fraud through mass mail-in balloting, and that's what Trump's fighting. Yeah, no, you're right. You're wondering why we're talking about data centers. Elon Musk overnight announced they are shutting down, get this, 200,000 highly active X accounts. Many of them posing as, local grandmas who are concerned about data centers. You know who they are? They ain't grandmas. At least not here. Maybe in the Communist Party in China, they're all Chinese Communist Party bots. And they have been using them with people pretending to be locals to fight these data centers. He said they're fake, and that violates X's authenticity rule. And so they've shut them all down. 200,000 bots with huge reach, having extraordinary impact on American debate on data centers. Why? Well, because National Review put it really, really well. For many years, The Soviet Union, then Russia, financed the environmental movement in the United States to suppress American production of oil and gas. Now the Chinese Communist Party is doing the same. It knows if it wins the AI race, it will contribute greatly to its dreams of world domination, while if it loses, China, with its rapidly shrinking population, could be on the way to the garbage dump of history. So the stakes are enormous. 200,000 strong bot farm, pretending to be local concerned people, repeating just absolute lies about water and energy usage of these data centers. And folks, it's working. It has spread like wildfire. I'm not saying data centers are great, and I'm not saying they shouldn't be even stopped in some areas till we figure out, okay, do we have the electricity? Do we have the water? Can we can we do this? We're going to need some innovation too from the companies that need them. But folks, we can't get left behind in this. Trump is right about that. We will be absolutely dominated by Chinese AI, every aspect of our life and our culture and our algorithms and everything you see and the perspective it comes from. So good on Elon Musk for detecting that and shutting it down. What? Texter writes, hey, Tara, I was a single mom of 3 boys. I would drop them off at school, and before my oldest got out of the car, he would say, Mom, I left you a present. Okay, apparently this is factual. We've got a fact check here on the text line. Tara, yes, you fart on a Bic and it's flammable. Fact, we did it 50 years ago. So did you get a sizable flame? Or, I bet they got this on YouTube. It's all on YouTube. Texter writes on the Common Sense Retirement Planning text line about the admittedly abysmal 1.5% growth number. GDP, that's the economy, grew by 1.5%. Tara, didn't you say GDP needs to be above 3% for us, or we're going into a recession or inflation? Actually, no, well, I repeated it. That wasn't me. That was Kevin Hassett when he was selling the big, beautiful bill. And they promised, hey, yeah, this is the biggest bill in history. It's never spent more in a single bill. That's why I opposed it. I loved all the tax cuts. I just wanted them to cut the spending down. Spending was outrageous. And was ultimately why at the time I had Ralph Norman on the show to thank him for cutting out the billions, in forcing them to cut out the billions in Green New Deal subsidies. He was punished for that on Tuesday. So we like spending. What is the fallout of punishing him? And by the way, those were Biden era subsidies. They were Green New Deal subsidies. Grok actually called them Green New Scam, said some people on our side refer to him as that. And basically, it was just the theft plan by Democrat NGOs. Ralph Norman said, no, I'm not voting for the big, beautiful bill. Spends too much. Let's cut out billions of dollars. Why are the Biden subsidies in there? Well, the answer was because Republican leadership put them there. Trump didn't. They did, but still. Norman forced them to cut that, but it was still the biggest bill, and he paid with his political career on Tuesday. He was punished. No Republican will do that again. They will not cut the AOC subsidies. I won't blame them. Go get taken out by Trump and the Democrats. But anyway, they promised that GDP would grow by 3% because this stuff in the big, beautiful bill, which is actually awesome. So that's going to lead to a good economy eventually, especially a manufacturing boom. I don't dispute that. But they said, yeah, don't worry. GDP, it'll have GDP growing at 3%. GDP has to grow at 3% because it is the biggest spending bill ever passed in American history. And if the economy did not grow at 3%, but you printed the money for the big, beautiful bill, what would happen? Inflation. So this texture's right. GDP only grew by 1.5%, Tara. Didn't you say the GDP needs to be above 3% for us to avoid inflation? It does. It's at half that. And what are we getting? Well, now we're talking about a rate hike, not a rate cut. Why? Well, because we're printing like lunatics. But you can't say that anymore, or you'll lose your congressional seat. And it's not just me saying it. Here's Kevin Hassett at the time touting the big, beautiful bill, which, again, I love the big, beautiful bill. I love the tax cuts. I love the expensing of factories. I love all of it. I just wanted them to cut the stupid funding in there. I do not know why we were funding Democrat Green New Deal stuff, but we were.
And the bottom line is that this bill is going to lead to probably 3% growth again, just like we promised last time. And if we get 3% growth instead of the 1.8% growth that the CBO is promising, then guess what? That adds $4 trillion in revenue. It makes it so this bill pays for itself. And I think when people see the bill pass, then that's going to create a lot of certainty in markets, and that's going to be very, very helpful.
Yeah, and then the Iran war happened. Which, look, they were on the brink of getting a kind of missile that could take out our destroyers, and they would have been able to completely dominate the strait. We had to go to war. But, you know, it's just this thing, if you're going to pass the biggest spending bill ever, you're going to print it all, a lot of it, it's going to cause inflation. I said that at the time. Hope we can keep a 3% growth rate. Well, we're at half that right now. And this texture's right. And Kevin Hassett said, what would happen? Well, to avoid inflation, well, we're going to have to keep it at 3%. Well, it's not at 3%. It's at half that, and that's why you're seeing rate hikes. People are going to start to struggle to buy houses. It's supposed to be going in the other direction.
Look, the bottom line is that if we get 3% growth, then we're going to have $4 trillion more revenue than the CBO score.
Yeah, well, you can't guarantee that. You don't know what will happen. The way to do that is to just not spend a lot of money that we don't have for reasons that aren't real clear. Texter writes, Tara being pro data center and pro flock cameras was not on my bingo card. Well, it's not on your bingo card because I'm not for either of those things. I didn't say that. What I said was, I was very clear about this. It is extremely problematic that the billions in funding, yes, billions in funding behind the propaganda here is coming from the Chinese Communist Party. And the news that I was reacting to was Elon Musk overnight saying, hey, listen, I found a massive Chinese bot farm, 200,000 accounts pumping out anti-data center propaganda directly from China. He shut them down. And a lot of these bots were posing as the grandma from Utah, concerned housewife from Virginia. Folks, this is war. So, look, we're Americans. We do everything better. We're smarter. We are. We're more talented. I am certain that with the Chinese propaganda machine shut down, that we can come up with a way to have data centers and have them be an asset to communities, both, water use wise, electricity wise. I am certain we could figure out a way to do that. And look, I'm not the only. Donald Trump talks about this almost every day, the importance of it, or we're going to lose this AI war to China. You do not want that. So there's got to be something other than no slam the door. There's got to be innovation by these tech companies. They got to have to figure it out. This shouldn't all be on communities at all. And if it is, it's problematic. But we can come together, I'm sure, as a country to figure this out, even if we got to run these data centers out of red states. I'm sure there's somewhere in the middle of nowhere we could set up a mini nuclear facility and run these data centers. I'm sure there is. We'll figure it out. We just need people to not reflexively say no. We need to have a conversation about it. And the reason I brought that up is you can see from Elon Musk where this campaign is coming from. Directly from China. By the way, I'm not the only one. Here's, Kevin O'Leary, Shark Tank. He was working on a data center campaign in Utah. They were trying to get it passed. And he couldn't believe the lies that were being told. And the seemingly tens of millions of dollars in a small state like Utah that was being spent by somebody to stop the data center. What got him frustrated, he said they was going to use 40,000 acres of land. He said all this water, it was a lie. All this electricity, none of it was true. And he's like, I'm going to spend my own money to figure out where the lie is coming from. How did that work? He dug deep into IRS data and it led straight back to the Democrat NGOs and communist China.
And I would argue today, if we're going to find a cure for cancer, it's going to be through AI. If we're going to democratize education, it'll be through AI. If we're going to do some advances on space research and travel, it'll be through AI. Productivity in the S&P 500, and it's all small companies, AI. And you can't have it without data centers. You actually need the underpinnings, the infrastructure. And so that debate, that narrative's going on. But there's a dark side to this that I've only started to bring forward in the last couple of weeks. I discovered this in Utah, that there are some nefarious forces. I didn't know anything about it, but I was wondering who was spending all the money in Utah with all that misinformation about what the data center was going to be, talking about using water we weren't, or using power we had no intention to, or 40,000 acres. That's complete BS. It was all lies. And I said, who could afford that? So I've hired a bunch of forensic auditors, and lo and behold, it took me back to the Chinese in Utah, and I caught them through the IRS 990 filings, and I handed it over to the White House and to a bunch of special agents, and I just wonder what's going to happen next.
I'll tell you what happened next. The absolute hub of Chinese activity, where the Democrat Party and China are fully merged, New York, where even the New York Times admits, go look up the article, it'll blow your mind, that China now controls who wins Democrat primaries in New York City. What did they just do? Ban data centers. Why? They're in absolute lockstep with the communist Chinese. I just think we need to ask questions. That's all. I'm not saying, hey, let's ignore the concerns and build a data center. I wouldn't want to do that. We just need to be really sure that the people who are objecting to these things locally are real people and not Chinese bots. Finally, this texter writes, Tara, everybody holds their farts on I-85 until they get to Malden Road. Is that true? That's true. Too good to check, I guess. Folks, you know what's so frustrating? We're having massive wins right now. And nobody knows. Nobody knows. There's no organized midterm campaign of any kind. I'm glad to see Trump's heading to Texas to help Paxton. Really need to start spending in that state. Tim Scott, by the way, has cut Paxton off. Only moderate candidates who will probably lose are getting money from Tim Scott. And unfortunately, he runs the senatorial committee. This is a huge problem. There's been a massive battle going on. You'll read about it in Politico. Our senator, Tim Scott, unfortunately controls basically the purse strings of the Republican Party for the U.S. Senate, which means he gets to decide what races he's spending money in and which he's not. They're spending money to defeat El Said in Michigan, which is good. Everybody agrees on that. But they've decided to cut Paxton off. Their argument is, well, he's fallen in the polls. Why is he falling in the polls? He was ahead. Because they refuse to give him any money. They're mad because they don't have Cornyn, who's basically a Democrat anymore, because Paxton beat him. Paxton's a conservative. So they've starved him of money while Democrats are campaigning, spending money in Texas, and Talafrico is pulled ahead. That's why Trump's there now. Tim Scott said, well, our donors don't want to give him any money. So you'd rather have Talafrico? Okay. So Trump is going there to headline a fundraiser for Paxton since Tim Scott has hijacked the strings, the funding strings of the Republican Party. Now, the sad thing is they're pumping money into Whatley, the Republican candidate up in North Carolina, who is going to get curb stomped up there by Roy Cooper. I'm from North Carolina. Roy Cooper is one state. He's wildly popular. He's crazy. He's a Democrat, but he hides it well. He's run statewide 4 times. Okay. Michael is going to get curb stomped, but they don't care. They'd rather waste money on him in a seat we're not going to win North Carolina. In a seat we cannot win. I mean, that guy, he was a former head of the RNC, so what? They don't like him up there either because he's a mushy moderate. I mean, I hate to say that. He's a waste of money. I'd write that one off and go see where else I could win. But Tim Scott wants to pump a bunch of money because he's been a loyal liberal Republican. He's a squish. I mean, sorry, but he is. Call a spade a spade. Meanwhile, Paxton in Texas, who Republicans like Tim Scott are pretending can't win the state, well, they starve him of money to make sure that he drops in the polling. He's dropped 4 points since they've been starving him and Democrats have been spending money. Guess what? Paxton's won statewide, including a really tough primary where he was outspent 12-1 by the Bush family trying to crush him. He can win Texas. And they know that. Tim Scott's NSRC, by the way, which just wasted $1 million on Darlene Graham in a Republican primary, okay? They'll spend the money to defeat Ralph Norman, who they consider more of a threat, apparently, than James Tallarico, the lunatic Democrat, who's obsessed, strangely, with transgender children. He can't stop talking about kids. It's weird. Anyway, met his girlfriend at a gay bar, too. That's sketchy. Well, you know what? See, did you see? I just did an ad. But no one will see it because Tim Scott has hijacked the money. And he's spending it here in Republican primaries to elect Democrats in South Carolina. It's great. So that's going on. By the way, Tim Scott and Donald Trump so blistered in Politico for the last 2 weeks with Republicans saying, it was an actual headline, they want the Darlene Graham treatment. Hey, I'm over here. I'm in a competitive district running against a Democrat. I could beat him, but stop starving me for money while you spend money on Darlene. Folks, what kind of Republican Party do we have when the people controlling the purse strings, and I'm talking about Tim Scott here, would rather see Tallarico win in Texas and spend the money defeating Ralph Norman? Let that sink in. Yeah, we ought to call attention to it. If he doesn't pay a price for it, he'll continue. Yeah, Lee, the growth, and I'm not surprised by this, not what we thought it would be, the 1.5%.
Yeah.
Half what we need to avoid getting inflation generated by congressional spending. We needed 3% growth. We didn't get it. And that is why in the news you're also hearing rate hike.
Right.
To cool inflation down. This is what happens when Republicans spend like drunken sailors or like Democrats, whichever. And we did. We shattered spending records with that big, beautiful bill. And that's why I said, look, I really want to pass all the tax cuts in, but you can't lard it up.
But the spending.
Yeah, and they did that to buy the votes of every Republican. Everybody got to pack their projects in, and a lot of Democrats did too, even though they opposed the big, beautiful bill. That was weird.
Exactly.
So, when you want to bring it full circle, you get mad, but, why do these people want to spend us into bankruptcy? Well, Ralph Norman tried to stop it.
Yeah.
He did.
He and a very few others.
Handful of others. He held it up because the votes were so tight. And he said, look, we're not spending the Biden Green New Scam money. Funny, I didn't call it the Green New Scam. Grok did. When I asked it, why did Ralph Norman hold up the big, beautiful bill? They said, because Biden's energy subsidies for those NGOs were in there for climate change.
Maybe even AI has a sense of humor.
Yeah, well, they did. And so basically, he successfully got them to strip it out, and he paid with his political career. So understand, if you didn't want this inflation caused by this spending, you will get destroyed by Republicans in your primary for not spending money on Democrat priorities. That is where we are. And what you're going to see going forward, all of these Democrat green scams where they steal the money, $60 billion Lee Zeldin found and clawed back. You will lose in a Republican primary now if you do not spend the money. That is where we are. So if you understand that when you see this inflation and these headlines, Kevin Hassett from the Trump administration explained we had to get to 3% economic growth in order to not have the inflation. Well, we're going to have the inflation now. Well, what happens when you spend?
Trump has painted himself into a corner on
Yes.
this because he campaigned on bringing prices down.
Something you cannot do. No one can bring price. You cannot bring. Here's the thing: if someone said to me, like, Jeannie, if I could blink, would I bring prices down? No, because that's stagflation.
Grow the economy.
You got to grow the economy and grow wages. Which, by the way, Trump is still growing wages.
Right. And this is the point I was trying to make: is that Biden is the one who's responsible for the inflation. Trump has already slowed inflation. It's just not slowed enough because we haven't seen the growth. Part of that, yes, is absolutely due to the increased energy and oil cost due directly and indirectly to the Iran war situation. So, I mean, you can blame Trump somewhat for this, but he, in my opinion, is taking a step that had to be taken.
Oh, yeah.
It is a can that had been kicked down the road by Democrats, Republicans, conservatives, liberals, progressives for decades, allowing Iran to be at war with us for 47 years and us never responding to it. And this is something that had to happen because Trump was right. I will always believe this. Iran can never have a nuclear weapon.
I agree.
He was not the only one saying this. Democrats, Republicans, progressive liberals, the UN, everybody said that, but nobody would do anything about it.
And it's absolutely
And he has
maddening.
done something about it. Unfortunately, it's going to cost him politically in the midterms. But it's something that had to happen. And once again, Biden is the one that caused this inflation. The spending by Democrats and Republicans caused the inflation we're seeing. Trump promised to bring down prices. It was a promise he could not keep and was probably not a smart way to a campaign. But he's painted himself into a corner on this because the only way we get out of this is through growing the economy, as you've been pointing out here, and wages rise because of that. If we have greater access to other markets, if we can diminish the influence that China has on our economy, then we will get to that growth. But we haven't been able to do that because of the current political and military situations.
Yep. So, when you pass a bill, you spend so much money. It's the biggest bill ever in American history. And you say, hey, it'll generate 3% growth. And then you have to hit Iran, which he did. This is where we are. We're going to be here a little bit, but I didn't mean to do a negative segment at all because there's so much positive news, and I just wish somebody would talk about it.
Yeah. There is actually a lot of positive news because you know what? If there weren't, we would be in a recession right now.
Oh, yeah. Like, for instance, and again, this is going to take Trump in what he has done in the last 6 weeks one day where he had a press conference and took credit for all the stuff we're doing. One day. There is no organized campaign of any kind. It's just absolute chaos right now. I keep saying, Trump, he can't do everything. Turn it over to a war room.
Well, here's part of the situation, too. Anything Trump tries to do politically is going to be opposed by the Democrat Party, and there'll be lawsuits and injunctions and the judiciary and everything else, everything he does politically. But what he does economically and militarily, they can't stop it.
No, and that's why we need to be out there taking credit for it.
Exactly.
And we're getting absolutely pummeled. Just a couple of examples that, just worth even noting. Trump administration just issued a new proposed rule, a $103,000 fee for each H-1B visa application. Mm-hmm. So that's just the application. You're not even guaranteed it's going to get approved.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
U.S. business, and we're going to see this, okay? This is coming. I've been telling you this. It's going to take a while for the tax incentives, the big, beautiful bill that's been around only since January when it took effect. U.S. business activity expanded at its fastest pace in more than 4 years. Yes, we are seeing sluggish growth right now of half what they promised, but that's Iran war stuff. U.S. business activity expanded at its fastest pace in more than 4 years. That is remarkable because, 4 years, that was Biden. No, that was the businesses coming back open after COVID. That wasn't real business activity. That was businesses finally being allowed to escape the totalitarian bounds of COVID shutdown, right? So we're seeing this boom in business activity. It's going to get better. ICE arrest, Lee, jumped to I wish our side would stop misreporting this, record all-time high of 50,000 in July. Not high for Trump's second term. Reuters, it was either Reuters or AP, put it that way, I think, to hide how big of a deal it is. What's the highest of Trump's second term? No, it's the highest ever, morons. So someone on our side should get on Google and stop repeating their talking points. Hey, wait, that sounds high. So I looked it up. Is it the highest ever? Yes, it's the highest ever. 50,000 ICE arrests in July. That is, again, a total record. And a 15% jump, Lee, from the month before. A 70% increase from February. Why? Well, we've got the agents have come online, the 10,000, but we've also defeated a lot of these injunctions that were holding us up. So that's fantastic. U.S. is conducting the largest mass visa revocation in the country's history, targeting 200,000 people who applied for, currently seeking asylum in the U.S., and a lot of it's just getting on their social media and going, dear God, they hate this country. And that's it. Bam, done. Finished. Huge win with the election integrity executive order, from the Supreme Court. International student enrollment plunges amid tighter U.S. visa policies, 22% in a single year. I love reading the Times of India articles on this. They are also freaking out.
I think there's a reason, too, why you're hearing about the Defense Department and the administration talking about that we have cleared the mines from the Strait of Hormuz. And I think that is to influence and to probably bring down oil prices after Labor Day. You'll probably see gasoline coming back down because demand will be lower, but also the supply will be increasing, even though there's some other issues. But I think it's important also, and I've been hearing some intelligence reports that say that the Navy has been getting contractors doing underwater drones to identify and destroy the Iranian mines. Now, the Navy and the Space Force can sit there and watch what's going on if they try to do any more, like the Trump administration has been saying. If that is accurate and if that is true, then that should have an influence on the amount of oil that flows and the impression that the Strait of Hormuz is still a dangerous situation. So it should increase the amount of activity in that area.
Absolutely. Although, when you look at oil prices, it's $83 a barrel right now. I mean, that's not bad. That's not where it was when it was over 100 and everybody's worrying about it. And that, by the way, is why we saw the 1.5% growth in the last quarter. It's about 60% of it. Yeah. So, that's it.
And then also the very high diesel prices, which that's probably the biggest problem. It's not so much the price of gasoline, it's the price of diesel. Yeah.
And that, of course, rolls over into food. But you're going to see that come back down. The price is down. It's just got to catch up. Listen to this. Another figure. Fentanyl deaths plunged 22% over Biden.
Gee, and why is that change, Tara? Is it some government program?
Could be that the border's closed.
There you go. It could be.
Think about this for a minute.
Something we were told was secure.
If you can measure human pain and agony.
Oh, yeah.
Truly, I mean, every one of these deaths is a shattered family. Mm-hmm. You never get over it when you lose your child to drugs or anything else.
Yep.
Synthetic opioid deaths in a single year, so this is the first year stats that we have now, dropped from 48,913 to 38,084. Total drug overdose deaths fell 14% single year. All we got to do is stop the Democrat lawlessness and the voter drive at the border. And look what happens. Look how many people didn't die.
And didn't have to
And
die.
didn't have
Those who
to
did
die.
didn't have to die because we refused to do what a sovereign nation does, which is enforce its borders. We had the law, we had things in place, and we refused to do it during the Biden administration. Refused to do it. Went to court to keep it from being done.
Yeah.
Those people that died because of that didn't have to die, whether it is fentanyl, whether it is opioid deaths, whether it is drunk drivers or people that were hit by vehicles that were being driven by illegal immigrants who couldn't even speak the English language. Those people didn't have to die during the Biden administration.
No. So fentanyl-linked deaths dropped 22% in a single year. That is a decline again of 10,000 deaths. All it takes is enforcing the laws on the books instead of being lawless like the Democrats. That's all it takes.
Amen to that.
And by the way, I'm sorry, I'm only a third way through that list of good stuff. See, this is why I'm really frustrated with Trump right now. There's so many incredible wins, and we are in absolute chaos in terms of having an organized campaign to talk about them.
You know, you're going to have to come up with a War Room podcast. We've got the
I swear,
Battleground
I
podcast.
can't do it all.
I know, but your small shoulders can handle a heavy load because you are that talented, Tara.
Man, well, thank you, man. I'd love to go run a war room right now. And what the first thing I'd do, I'd hire a really good focus group pollster, and we'd poll around the clock, like the Democrats have. And we would craft our message around it, and then we'd have a team of 60 to 100, and we'd hit podcast, we'd hit, all the, we'd hit the Rogan show, we'd hit everyone talking about the stuff in this list. It's just unbelievable, what is going on. I mean, Trump just axed, this is going to be huge. You're going to see a massive exodus out of this country. ICE isn't going to have to round them up. Trump just axed tax credits for illegal immigrants, saving taxpayers $3 billion. Do you realize there was 1 million illegals getting tax credits for their children? That's illegal, right?
Yes,
you cannot get that if you're an illegal immigrant. So those were the ones who would. So this is think about this for a minute. This is the IRS breaking the law to defraud the American people, steal from us and give to illegals. When on the flip side, if you hid your money from them, they will prosecute you.
Exactly.
Think about it. I mean, just wrap your brain around that. Trump just ended it. That, by the way, watch this. Democrats are going to sue to try to force the continuation of the breaking of the law by the IRS. And by the way, I'm only on thing number 10. There's 14 here. Nobody knows. I see so many accounts on our side on X, like people who were, I was MAGA, but we're not getting anything done, and I'm disgusted. No, it's just they're not communicating, and we're running out of time.
Now,
Folks, as we wrap up a week that we're going to refer back to many, many times here on the show, we'll be referring to this in the years that come, because it was an epic battle on Tuesday between the Graham machine and the upstate. With a lot of folks online, I said it and then it started circulating, and a lot of folks online, some guy online pointed out, he took a map of 17, like the pre-1776, like what counties were supported freedom and were patriots and what counties supported the British, and made the point, it was a historical map, wow, you overlay that and it looks exactly like the election returns from Tuesday. It's eerie, with the upstate voting to put the most conservative, what would have been the most conservative senator in the Senate by voting record, Ralph Norman, in the Senate, versus the folks in the Low Country who supported the British and now apparently support the Democrats. Where we saw and I'm really hoping someone will pick this up nationally and run with it. I don't care if it's a Democrat or Republican publication. Somebody needs to cover it. The largest expenditure of Democrat cash in a Republican primary I can find. And I searched this. I scoured the internet to see, has there been upwards of $2 million spent by Democrats in a Republican primary to elect a candidate? I can't find another example. That is historic. That is huge. And I just keep hoping somebody, the Axios, Slate, Democrats could, take credit for it, report it, or Republicans can, because we need to pay attention to this. They're going to do it again. And folks out at the coast have no idea that a lot of the messaging they saw was from Democrats. With Tim Scott and our Republicans here in this state, Tim Scott, of course, the reason I'm picking on him is he runs the National Republican Senatorial Committee, using money to defeat Republicans when he won't spend any money to help Ken Paxton, the conservative Republican, defeat Tallarico in Texas, yet he will spend it to defeat Ralph Norman in a Republican primary, working hand in hand with the Democrats. I don't know if they coordinated, but if they hadn't, wouldn't look any different. We have not seen this before. I've been doing this for 20 years. I've never seen this before. And I don't know what it's precedent for, but it's a little scary. But the Graham machine, in concert with the Democrats, is going to control this state probably for a long time to come. And I want to explain to you what happened, because it's remarkable. This is a historic week, folks. If you want to know how South Carolina really works and what actually happened in that election on Tuesday, stay tuned, because I am the only one who's going to deliver that. And by the way, if you want to share it with your friends, I've already posted it on Facebook. So if we can understand how South Carolina really works and what really motivates it and why Obama and Biden officials donated to a PAC, liberal Democrat donors to a PAC, and came into this state and used their precious resources to elect Darlene Graham. If you understand that, everything going forward, newspaper headlines, things I'm not even talking about, will make sense to you. You will be able to decipher South Carolina politics because you will have the code, and it's going to be in the next segment, so you need to listen. Coming up, you will hear this nowhere else, and I'd hate it if you missed it. Next. It is historic, as I said in the last segment. We've never seen the Democrats spend the amount of money in just a week that they spent to elect a Republican in a Republican primary. And I'm hoping, because so many people use this show for show prep, including a lot of people who are part of the conservative ecosystem, somebody will take a look at it and write an article about it. The Daily Signal already has, by the way, if you want to use it as prep. The article is Climate Activist Money, Medals, and GOP Primaries. This is a Democrat pack, and we've been talking about this for weeks, right? But there's something bigger here, and I want to use this to just wrap the week, because we'll be referring back to this week so many times in the future to understand what is going on in South Carolina. And here's what happened. While the liberal rhino Graham machine that has run for South Carolina for 20 years, while the liberal rhino Graham machine that runs South Carolina was fighting to keep Democrat Jim Clyburn's congressional seat in his hands just months ago, rather than redraw it, one man battled them. One man embarrassed them. Ralph Norman. Starting when? August 2025. August 2025. 2025, not 2026, August 2025, a year ago. Fought to get the redrawn map out of committee and blocked by Republican leadership. Who in the heck does that? And that's why the Graham machine, I'm talking about Republican leadership, that's why the Graham machine and national Democrats, including former Biden and Obama officials, fought so hard to defeat Ralph Norman and elect Darlene Graham. Now, it was huge news at the time, back in August 2025, when Norman announced, hey, numbers wise, we shouldn't have a Democrat district. We should have Clyburn and send him to Congress. We are down to a handful of votes. The Republican control. Let's redraw the district. Republican leadership didn't want to, and it made national news with everyone from CNN and to MS Now screaming.
GOP Congressman Ralph Norman believes now is the time for the state to redraw its congressional districts.
There are reports tonight that 5th District Congressman Ralph Norman wants state lawmakers to redraw district lines. That way, all 7 congressional seats are held by Republicans.
York County Congressman Ralph Norman says he wants to redraw the lines in a way that would push out the state's lone Democratic representative, Jim Clyburn.
Should South Carolina redistrict and make it 7-0?
Absolutely.
In South Carolina, Congressman Ralph Norman, who is running for governor, by the way, well, he wants redistricting.
The alarm was sounded. After all, James Clyburn long has been in Democrat leadership. Again, note the date at the beginning of Ralph Norman's fight, August 2025. So that's why the Graham machine, Lindsey Graham machine, and national Democrats, including former Biden and Obama officials, fought so damn hard to defeat Ralph Norman and elect Darlene Graham. We have never seen the uniparty come out into the open like this, openly working together to defeat Ralph Norman. Why? Because the power of the Graham machine in South Carolina comes in part from the alliance between Republicans and Democrats, and the Democrat PACs and donors who pump millions into electing Darlene Graham by filling the inboxes of this state with lies. And it's historic because this is the most national Democrat money I can find ever directly spent in a Republican primary. Never seen this before. That was the level of desperation and just anger. Why? Because the Graham machine ultimately saved the congressional seat for Jim Clyburn and everyone who answers to them in the legislature. Folks, remember, with even the governor, all he had to do was call a redrawing session. He refused. And he ran down week after week after week, wasting time running it into the midterms so he could then say, well, we're right up at the election. As Trump begged them to redraw that district because we desperately need it to regain the House. So the Graham machine ultimately saved the congressional seat of Democrat Jim Clyburn, despite the Supreme Court ruling that racially gerrymandered districts like it are unconstitutional. They disenfranchise Republican voters, which the Graham machine specializes in, leaving that congressional seat in Democrat hands. All of this, again, in defiance of Trump's demands that South Carolina legislature redraw it to return it to GOP hands where the Supreme Court says it belongs. And one man would not shut up about it. And that was Ralph Norman starting a year ago. That's why, folks, it's so insane. And I will never understand why Trump intervened to save the machine that defied him just weeks before. Ignoring Trump's demands, our legislature, controlled by the Graham machine, that they redraw Clyburn's seat to help Republicans retain control of the National House of Representatives. And Trump said, listen, it's going to come down to the wire. We need this seat. We need this seat. Shane Massey and the other Graham machine acolytes said, no, we want it to be in Democrat hands. It belongs in Democrat. We love Democrats. We love Democrats. And so what do you get, folks? Payback. Payback. Democrats pumped just one of their PACs, $1 million into electing Darlene Graham. That's a really cheap price, folks. A really cheap price for Clyburn's district.
Our state is stronger with vibrant parties. I will tell my Republican friends, Republicans are stronger when the Democrat Party is vibrant and viable. We are. Competition makes you better, y'all. We know it in the economic sector. It also happens in the political sector.
Lindsey, by the way, that is the supposedly Republican, I put that in air quotes, Republican leader of our state Senate. Why? Because the Graham money defeats the conservatives who run against these people. That guy's a Democrat, Shane Massey. He'd run as a Democrat in another state, but he's elected here, like Darlene Graham. Actively defying Trump, saying, screw you to the National Republican Party, screw you to the country, we like Democrat seats. But didn't the Supreme Court just say that they're unconstitutional, disenfranchise Republicans' civil rights? Yeah, we don't care. We're not Republicans. We just run as one and play one on TV. They saved Clyburn's seat. Now watch what happens next. Clyburn, the Democrat, at one point number 2 in leadership of the Democrat Party, who really is a number 2, has a legendary Democrat voter turnout machine that spans not just our state, but the country. Okay? Clyburn then writes a glowing endorsement of Darlene Graham's candidacy. And then the two machines, the Clyburn machine and the Graham machine, do what they do best. They went to work turning out Democrats to vote in the primary, backed by a raft of Democrat cash. So much so, folks, that even Charlie Kirk's TPUSA, their grassroots machine, the leader of it, noticed and begged South Carolina to close its primaries to stop it. They said, we can't do anything about this onslaught of Democrats voting in this primary. Folks, most Republican states only allow Republicans to vote in Republican primaries. The Graham machine has fought for years to leave these primaries open. So Democrats can help them defeat conservatives and ultimately, at this point, defeat even actual Republicans in Republican primaries. Ralph Norman attempted to upend that starting in August of 2025 when he said, no, we got to redraw Clyburn's district. It terrified them. It exposed them. They were embarrassed. And he paid on Tuesday. Ralph Norman attempted to upend that machine on Tuesday. And the saddest part, the thing that will rip my heart out for the next 20 years as I watch this, is that he would have succeeded without Trump's endorsement. They rope-a-dope Trump in, and now South Carolina will spend another 20 years ruled by a Democrat-Republican partnership so valuable, folks, so valuable to national Democrats, they spent over $1 million in just a week to elect Darlene Graham and keep it in place. Can you see how this works now? Ask yourself this: where were the other Republicans screaming and yelling, hey, we should, redraw Clyburn's district? The Supreme Court says so. Nowhere. They were nowhere. Well, everyone from the governor on down to Shane Massey, the supposed Republican leadership put in place by the Graham machine, fought to keep that congressional district. Folks, while even our speaker, Mike Johnson, begged us to redraw those districts, and Republican legislatures led by actual Republicans across the country did redraw them. They won on Tuesday. That's going to affect things for years to come.
Like the host, like Vince, the host in Charlotte, asked me today, well, there's some concern that Darlene might be such a moronic candidate who admits to in public she knows nothing, that she might lose. I said, no, backwards. Democrats aren't going to beat her. They don't want to beat her. If the Democrats beat her, what will come after her will be like somebody like that really represents the state. And they'll lose like the very next election. No, they helped her win that nomination. They helped her win that primary. They crossed over to vote for it in an open primary.
The effects of that are going to consume the next 2 decades. Immediate fallout effect from that is that we are absolutely not going to get rid of the income tax in this state, like other actual Republican states, have had no income tax for over a decade. It's not going to be possible because the Democrats were elected into the state, in part using the Clyburn turnout machine. That is how the Lindsey Graham machine works. It gets Clyburn to send in the Democrat voters, and as a result, as payback, they didn't dare redraw Clyburn's district. They would have lost the keenest, best oiled, Democrat turnout machine that works for them in this state. There is absolute kinship between Clyburn, the Democrat, and Republicans in this state, like I've never seen before. And we've never seen a tranche of cash spent, like this, $1 million in a week and a half. Upwards of 2, it appears, but I'm going to go conservative and say 1 million by Democrat donors, including former Obama and Biden officials on behalf of Darlene Graham. And folks, what's so heartbreaking there is that even with that, all the experts agree. I was on Newsmax with one of them the other day, former chairman of South Carolina GOP, who agreed Norman would have absolutely won if they hadn't tricked Trump into intervening. And it makes no sense. This is from the RCP, Real Clear Politics podcast, Carl Cannon.
They're gonna win that seat. Ralph Norman would have been a United States senator if Trump hadn't got this whim that Lindsey Graham's sister should have the seat for reasons he's never really explained. But wouldn't have time. Look, his time is finite. He's the president of the United States. He's a wartime president. It's a midterm election. This is late August. The election's in early November. They're in trouble in states that they shouldn't be in trouble in. I'm thinking of Iowa and Alaska right now. Sean will probably add to the list. Is that what this guy should be doing? But it's still a weird thing that Trump. It's a weird expenditure of Trump's time and treasure, in my opinion.
Yeah, it is. And folks, everybody's saying, "Well, the Democrats elected Darlene Graham. She's a terrible candidate. That's why they pumped $1 million in, and Annie Andrews is going to beat her." No, she's not. That's not going to happen. Folks, Jamie Harrison and the Democrats tried this 6 years ago. You know how much money Jamie Harrison spent trying to beat Lindsey Graham? And Lindsey Graham isn't popular in this state. People didn't like him. He's 41% approval. $57 million. Want to know how that worked out for the Democrats and Jamie Harrison? 10-point loss. 10-point loss. They know they can't win this state. Harrison, by the way, got 44%. Lindsey Graham got 54%. No, so they said, you know what we're going to do? We're going to run the Democrat in a primary. We're going to use the Clyburn turnout machine to the extent that it appalled Charlie Kirk's TPUSA, their field organization, how many Democrats were in the field voting in a primary. And they advised us, y'all, you got to close your primaries. All of your representatives are going to be Democrats who run in Republican primaries. Yeah, I know. And that needs to be the fight of the coming years. Is to do that. But folks, I think Trump's ego got in the way here. And look, folks, everybody says, well, Ralph Norman endorsed Nikki Haley. Trump hired her, employed her, and she criticized him while she was part of his cabinet. So Lee, if there's one thing that we saw once again on Tuesday, when Charlie Kirk's organization, they have, and a lot of people don't know this about Charlie Kirk, and it's actually one of the things that frustrates me because the guy was an absolute legend. They think of him as this guy who went around converting college kids and, you know, being brave and taking on crowds, and he was amazing. That was one of his favorite things to do, but that was more of a sideline to what he actually did, Lee. Charlie Kirk was a tactical genius. He really was. And that's why people gave him money, lots of it. He had $100 million ground operation for turning out, identifying, targeting voters and turning them out. $100 million across the swing states. It is, and I've been saying this for a long time, and I said this when he was assassinated, Lee, if the Democrats made a list of 10 people, well, you know, we get to take 10 Republicans out. Who would they be? Charlie Kirk could be on that list. Mm-hmm. We owe Trump's victory to three things. And a lot of people say, well, you know, Trump came back and he raised money. He did. Trump has always been a very, very poor grassroots organizer. In fact, 25% of people who attended Trump rallies, they're not even registered to vote, and there was never a voter registration booth. That's how bad it was. Yeah. He had no ground game and relied entirely on video and YouTube and media. And that worked really well in you know, against Hillary Clinton. And that's why you saw the Democrats move in and censor social media. Well, Charlie Kirk built that ground operation. That's why Trump lost. One of the big reasons Trump lost in 2020, but won in 2024. Yes, Democrats tried to cheat again. I'm certain of it, but he just had such a groundswell. They couldn't compete against it. And a lot of that is three people. It's Elon Musk and the money that he put into building his voter turnout and registration operation in the swing states is Charlie Kirk's, and it's Scott Pressler, mostly working in Pennsylvania, right? So all of that is going on. When you have the COO of TPUSA, they endorsed Ralph Norman, say on Twitter, look, South Carolina, y'all, you got so many Democrats voting your primaries. We can't do anything to help you. You're going to have to get him out. You have to close these primaries. That gets my attention. And he said that's what happened on Tuesday. In part. And I think a lot of it is also Republicans, you know, getting all those messages from those Democrat PACs funded, Daily Signal, not my reporting, funded by former Obama and Biden officials, head of the Sierra Club. And they elected a Democrat and Republican primary in this state with the, and I check, Lee, on using AI. I cannot find, and send it to me if you can, because I'd love to know if this has happened anywhere else, Lee. I cannot find another primary election in which the Democrats spent $1 million, over $1 million, but let's call it $1 million to be conservative, in a week, or at all. There have been a couple where they've pumped money and put it behind really, really weak candidates who they then, you know, turned around and defeated. They beat out a better Republican with a really bad, weird one. They just picked some weirdo in the primary and put money behind him, someone whose name you normally wouldn't know. But this was different because that's not, Darlene Graham, as bad of a candidate as she was, she is going to win in the fall. And a lot of people are saying now, Lee, oh, well, you know, they did it. It's the same pattern. They did it to, you know, elect a Democrat. Annie Andrews could be. Annie Andrews isn't going to beat Darlene Graham. I mean, short of some crazy, I don't know. I mean, it'd have to be crazy. Did look at Jamie Harrison, remember, ran against Lindsey Graham 10 years ago. Yeah. $57 million he spent. He lost by 10 points. Yeah. And Lindsey Graham is not popular. He's a guy with a 41% approval
Even
rating.
Democrats were questioning, why did we spend all this money?
Well, they did.
Yes.
They did. So understand something. When you say, what's the backup plan? Annie Andrews is the backup plan. Darlene Graham's the Democrat candidate. Texter writes, well, your station was running every Graham commercial. We have to.
Yeah.
If we take a campaign commercial from one we can't pick and choose. Yeah. We got to run them all.
We are regulated by the Federal Communications Commission, and if you take any money from any candidate, you have to allow every candidate. We have no control at all over the copy, what you hear, or how many spots they run. That is all done. And we have to sell it to them at the lowest, what's called the lowest unit rate. They get this at a bargain price.
They do. So we're not.
And it kicks local advertisers off because they buy so many in a short period of time.
And we always get complaints about the ads. No, we don't choose it. We have to take them all. That's what we do. And we're not going to turn them all down. Why would we do that? We make a lot of money from those ads. So we're going to take everybody's. And we should take everybody's. I mean, that's just fair. But, just to put it back another way, we have got to close these primaries in this state. We have got to get Democrats out of our primaries. It is absurd that Democrats are voting in our primaries. And what that has done is eliminate an entire generation, Lee, of really great conservative candidates whose names you'll never know because they were knocked out in the primaries.
At least now,
yeah,
the state party is suing to make that happen. The only people who were against it, because I know the people in the grassroots areas of the local counties. The local county Republican parties have been after this for probably a couple of decades.
And that is why, for decades, you have heard the tale of the Graham machine literally interfering at the county level.
And it's the state leadership, the only ones that are trying to protect it, and they're the people who benefit from it.
And that, but you know why? We have dragged them kicking and screaming to this. Yep. I mean, I think Drew McKissick has been just absolutely raked over the coals till the point where he capitulated. But in this election, it was too late. We have got to close those primaries. Let me tell you what. You are going to see a revolution in who gets elected in this state. This is the irony. This is a deep red state. This is a redder state than Florida. And Florida is a freedom factory. I mean, it is a hub of absolute innovation. I mean, the fact that we can't even get rid of our income tax. Hello, Tennessee, Florida, Texas. We should be able to do that because we have a more conservative voter base. We can't because our conservatives are drummed out by the Graham machine in partnership with the Clyburn machine. That's why they saved Clyburn Seatley. That's why they saved it. Why? They can't kill off the Clyburn machine. Clyburn machine turns Democrats out for them. By the way, not just here, but across the country, it's legendary. They operate out of the Black Methodist churches. So they operate from here through Chicago, through all these other big hubs. That's what makes Clyburn such a power broker, that he was able in South Carolina to save Joe Biden's disaster presidency. Because remember, Biden won the primary here. That's how powerful he is. And that is why these Republicans jumped in to save the Clyburn seat, even though the Supreme Court had declared seats like it to be unconstitutional. That is what is going on here. And we can end all of this and make sure this doesn't happen again by closing those primaries. We have got to close those primaries. And Lee, I don't even think, given the Democrats that have been elected in Republican primaries, a lot of them run our legislature now. They'd be Democrats if they ran in other states. I don't even think we can get it through the legislature. I don't. I think that you will see the same people that protected the Clyburn seat move in to block it. They already have it. We can't get it out of committee. I mean, Ralph Norman was the leader in trying to get it out of committee, the redrawing of Clyburn's district. Starting in March, we had him on the show to thank him. That's why they were like, we got to get rid of this guy. We can't be redrawing Democrat districts and making them Republican. And I'm like, aren't you a Republican? That's how bad this is. And people don't understand. You will see a revolution in this state. We close those primaries. Yes, we'll still have Democrats. Some Democrats will register as Republicans. Yes, that will happen. But the number is going to drop. Why? Because you can't do that at the last minute. That's why. So we're going to see a revolution. We've got to do it. This has got to stop because it's getting ridiculous. When the Democrats are so confident they're coming in here and selecting our candidates, it's not going to work. It's not. And again, by the way, that $1 million they spent was absolute payback for saving the Clyburn seat. $1 million for a Democrat seat when control of the state house of the National House of Representatives is on the razor's edge. That's cheap. Super cheap. Texter writes here, I hate to disagree with you, but Biden did not win any election. I think they mean the primary in South Carolina. Biden was installed like you'd put a toilet in a stall. Installed. Well, yeah, no, but the Clyburn machine, I mean, you see the power of it here in South Carolina. Remember when Joe Biden, Lee, I mean, he was so unpopular. He was on dropout watch. And then he came here and won the primary. Why? Clyburn did it. He could turn votes out. That's why he's so valuable. So this is something I can tell you on this show we're going to double and triple down on paying attention to, is just the closing of these primaries. This has got to stop. It's got to stop. And Democrats, Lee, I think were able to use a grudge that Trump had against Ralph Norman for endorsing Nikki Haley. Everybody forgot Trump hired her. Endorsing Nikki Haley to get him to pour his money in alongside that Democrat spending and Tim Scott spending. I would love to know if Trump knew the Democrats were supporting her. Love to know that. I know Tim Scott did. He had to. The Republican National Senatorial Committee, you do ad buys. You can see who's buying ads and where they have to disclose it. There is no way they didn't Google the Invest in Tomorrow PAC and see who it was. There's no way. They knew the Democrats were operating in tandem with them. And Lee, for me, this was the week where eye-opener for me, and there's not a lot that opens my eyes anymore, where I've always thought of the uniparty as, well, they come together on issues they agree on, not disagree, they agree on, like amnesty and stuff, right? But they, otherwise they're separate. I've never watched the Democrat Party and the Republican Party work more closely together to achieve the goal of electing one person than I saw this week in this election with Darlene Graham. I've never seen anything like it. Which shows you they really do coordinate. Well, I don't know, coordinate, but work in tandem is a better way to put it. Because they had to know. All Tim Scott had to do was go, oh my gosh, the Democrats are overwhelming the airwaves here. They're overwhelming your inbox. These are Democrat ads. They're pretending to be Republicans, but he didn't. He didn't say a thing. All while he went on TV, literally at the same time saying this.
All over the country, from Troy Jackson in Maine to Abdul El Sayed in Michigan, the Democrat socialists have taken over the party. And I can tell you firsthand, they are cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. Sean, this is the most dangerous, radical, and frankly, weird group of candidates I've ever seen in my lifetime. And Abdul El Sayed continues to dodge the questions. He would not answer the question on Jesse Waters about boys playing girls in sports because he supports it.
And yet you said nothing while Democrats came in here and spent $1 million. Nothing. You said nothing. You didn't raise any alarm. You worked in tandem with them. Heck, the talking points in the ads were eerily similar between the Republican National Senatorial Committee ads, the Trump ads, I don't know who did them, and the Democrat ads. And it could just be that the Democrats copied our wording while pretending to be Republicans. It's crazy. Texter writes, you've totally lost me on the Democrats supporting Darlene Graham. Where is your proof? Daily Signal article. They documented the entire thing. I just sent it to that guy, but the article is Climate Activist Money Medals. Climate Activist Money Medals in GOP primaries using MAGA messaging. And it uses Federal Election Commission data to show that more than $1 million spent by the Democrats to support Darlene Graham came from Democrats and donations by former Biden and Obama officials. It is absolute fact, but I sent it to the guy. Indisputable. FEC records. Never seen anything like it. This is historic. I wonder if Democrats are going to start doing this in other states. I mean, I would if I was them. But then again, if they kind of almost need Trump to piggyback on it and cover for them. I don't know that Trump did it on purpose. I don't know that Trump even knew the Democrats were doing this. I think he just was having a grudge match with Ralph Norman. Texter writes, I will be calling Tim Scott's office every week until I see him funding Ken Paxton. Have you seen this Politico article by the way? Headline, Republicans demand the Darlene Graham treatment. These are Republicans running in competitive districts that we could win. Some of them Senate, some of them House. And they've been talking to Politico, screaming and yelling for the last 2 weeks, roughly, in absolute outrage. Because the Republican Party, while they're spending a lot of money trying to help the Democrats defeat Ralph Norman, bizarrely, and elect Darlene Graham, actual Republicans running against actual Democrats, at least Democrats in name, can't get any money. The Trump MAGA Inc. PAC is not spent yet, except for Darlene. I think they spent $18,000 on a text campaign down in Georgia for a Republican. That's it. And the problem is, folks, Ken Paxton, who can absolutely win in Texas, he's won twice statewide. Ken Paxton absolutely could beat Talafrico. And yet what? We're not spending any money. Democrats are, and he's fallen a full 4 points behind. And now Tim Scott's National Republican Senatorial Committee is saying, well, look, he's behind. You know, my donors don't want to spend any money on him. Well, he's behind because you're starving him for cash. Texter writes, Tira, Rush Limbaugh said it best. There is no working across the aisle with the Democrats. So the Tim Scott operation, because he's running the National Republican Senatorial Committee, usually the chairmanship switches every year or so. So he's sitting on a massive tranche of cash. They spent money defeating Ralph Norman, but will not spend money defeating Talarico. Think about that. Let that sink in. And that's why Republicans are going wild. You could look it up on Politico, just this story after story after story. So, like, what the heck? We want the Darlene Graham treatment to defeat Democrats, not work with Democrats. And everybody's watching Trump to see if he would keep spending money in tandem with Tim Scott or if he'd go out on his own. And what Tim Scott has done is said, oh, we'll spend money for Paxton. Yeah, he'll have to raise it himself, and he could put it in a bank account, in our bank account. And if he raises over a certain amount, we'll just keep that. No, wait, you're saying Paxton should pay you? We need to keep Texas, y'all, because we need to stay free. We need things like controlling judges, or no, we just don't care. We'll let Talafrico pick our judges. That's the Tim Scott plan. Is that it? As he goes on television, folks, again, and screams and yells, DSA, they're scary, they're freaky, we got to defeat them. Well, you're not doing it, bud. So if you watch today, Trump went to Texas. Why did Trump go to Texas? Because he has been absolutely blistered by Republicans for spending all his time trying to defeat Ralph Norman and elect Darlene Graham, who the Democrats think will vote with them. They wouldn't have supported her with as much money as they did if they didn't think that. And Republicans are like, well, what do I do to get that treatment? Now watch what Trump is doing, okay? It's going to be interesting to see if he opens the MAGA Inc. coffers. He's got $500,000, between $400,000 and $500,000. He did a great job. I'm sorry, $500 million. He did a great job raising the money. Now he's going to Texas to headline a fundraiser for Paxton. Folks, this is end stage stuff, end stage Republic stuff, okay? And I don't usually wonk out with you on these races, but folks, we are in a position. We cannot lose another election or we will lose all of our Bill of Rights protections. We almost did under Biden. We absolutely lost our free speech. They went right in and took over social media. They still control Google. Folks, the only reason we have free speech today is because Elon Musk fooled the Democrats into thinking he was one of them for long enough that they didn't stop him from buying Twitter. And then he came in with the sink and kicked them the hell out. That's the only reason we're even having a debate in this country that they don't control. That's it. So, folks, we can't play silly games, and Tim Scott's playing silly games. And everybody wants to know, is Trump going to spend? So Trump is going to Texas. He's going to headline a fundraiser for Paxton. Paxton has got to get in the game. That's why he's behind to Talarico. Democrats are spending. Paxton's not. He's raised some money himself. Yeah, but he needs the party's muscle in Texas. One guy can't do it alone. So Trump's going in there to raise money for Paxton. He's headlining a fundraiser. Good. But Trump better match that money with his own. That's his job. That's his job, or I'm going to lose my mind. Because Trump just spent $1.6 million on Darlene Graham trying to kill off Ralph Norman. Okay. Look, I get that Trump's mad that Ralph Norman endorsed Nikki Haley. I get that. I understand Trump holds a grudge. Trump also hired Nikki Haley, so there's that. But apparently Norman can't do something like that. But Norman and Haley are friends. They go back a lot of years. But here's the thing about that, okay? Sometimes you got to think bigger than your individual grudges and go, hey, you know what? This could affect the future of the Republic. This could affect the Republican Party. We need to defend Texas. And Tim Scott's already checked out on Paxton. He's like, no, I'm not doing it. The really stupid thing, and you can tell what Tim Scott's doing here, okay, is that he has decided he's only going to support liberal Republicans. That's it. That's his only interest. And if Tallarico wins in Texas, oh well. And they're using the fact they starved Paxton of cash, and so he's falling in the polls to say, well, he's not polling well, so yeah, we're just not going to spend any money. Said no Democrat ever. Now they want to spend it on Michael Whatley, like a nice guy who should really try maybe running for a congressional seat, maybe. He's never won statewide. He's only ever headed the RNC. He's an absolute squish, and he's going to get his ass handed to him in North Carolina. I mean, he is. By Roy Cooper. Cooper's won over and over and over again statewide. Whatley's not going to win. But they want to pour a ton of money into Whatley and lose. Why? Because he's a liberal squish like them. He's a rhino. They'd rather Democrats win than conservative Republicans win. But the good news is Trump is at least raising money for Paxton. Because I'll tell you what, you put some money behind Paxton, he'll catch up again. But folks, that gap's getting wide. I mean, he's down. Pax is down like 4 points. While Trump's, holding rallies for Darlene Graham. It's so stupid. It's been in Politico for 2 weeks. We need to get smart. We need to do smart things now. Now is the time to start. Trump's obviously heard the outrage, but geez. Folks, if you're a Democrat and you are a sheeple and you listen to Sheeple News, if your Democrat friends say to you, there's no dangerous illegal immigrant, that's just racist Trump being a racist and all his racist followers, it's not a real thing. It's not happening. They're probably listening to this interview with Democrat Senator Chris Murphy that went viral.
Problem, according to the Trump administration, is a country that has been invaded, a country that is at risk physically because of the presence of people from other countries. That is a fake problem. That is not a real problem. Nobody likes to hear this.
Sorry about the dolly music in the background. It was part of the newscast. It's fake. There's not really any dangerous people here. That's just Trump administration lying. And they lie all the time.
The director of Immigration and Customs Enforcement confirms that more than 13,000 illegal immigrants convicted of murder have been caught at the border and then released into the United States. The letter here tells the tale. Hello, I'm John Roberts in Washington. You believe this, Sandra?
Which means they are here, and this is just an unbelievable development. I'm Sandra Smith in New York. Good to be with you, John. This is America.
Imagine, look, we get frustrated at Trump sometime. They'd be roaming free, and there'd be another 13,000 with them if Democrats won. And folks, this is Exhibit A. 9 men arrested in an undercover Fairfax, Virginia. So that's a Democrat sanctuary, city sanctuary for the replacement voters. No matter how many people they rape, abuse, or kill, if they vote Democrat one day, they can stay. Wow, that rhymed. Anyway, 9 men arrested in undercover Fairfax County child exploitation operation. This is one of these, textbook sting operations. They go online, police do in an area, pretending to be a minor because they know sex offenders are massing, on a blog or, in a chat room or somewhere like that to try to get them. So they'll get a tip, hey, these sex offenders are over here, they're over there, and they'll go, sting operation. All 9 showed up. Arrested in an undercover Fairfax County operation. Detectives posed as minors during the online operation to identify suspects using internet platforms to initiate sexually explicit conversations with minors. Of the 9 random men, how many you want to bet are illegal immigrants? Exact same number they're finding in Florida. When they run these child sex sting operations, it's always the same. It's about 30%. This was slightly higher. It's 3 out of 9, but pretty much in keeping. In fact, the attorney general down in Florida is like, this is amazing. We can't run one of these, but 30% of the sex offenders we catch are legal. Why? They came here to abuse kids. That's why. They also came here because a lot of them are convicted sex offenders in their own countries, and they're running from the law. They were awaiting trial, and Biden invited them to come here, so they did. Now they're doing their thing here with kids. Listen to this, folks, because you want to see the damage the Democrats have done to this country. Among the 3 out of 9, Salvadorian illegal alien Wilmer Alexander Aguilar Cruz, he was caught and released near Hidalgo, Texas by the Obama administration. Again, there is nothing in federal law that makes us release them. That is a choice. 2012, released by Obama, and God knows how many kids he's hurt since then. Rap sheet includes solicitation of a child, indecent liberties, proposed sex acts, sodomy, extortion, threat to burn. But hey, he's a future Democrat voter. You can't put a price on that. One of them was, another one, Salvadorian illegal alien Raybon Leono Sanchez Hernandez. He was caught and released at the border by the Biden administration in 2023. He has prior criminal history, including solicitation for prostitution from a minor. Then there's illegal alien Henry Adalberto Flores Herrera, whose criminal history includes, but isn't limited to, felony solicitation of prostitution from a minor, sexual exploitation of a minor, driving under the influence of liquor and traffic offense. But we will vouch for him. The plan was to make him a future Democrat replacement voter, so he got to stay. ICE placed detainers on them with the Fairfax County Sheriff's Department. Now, here's where this is going to get interesting. Sodomy, really? felony solicitation of prostitution from a minor, the worst of the worst, sexual exploitation of a minor. These are sick creeps. But Fairfax County is the sanctuary county for future Democrat voters who happen to like to rape children. So will they honor the ICE detainers? Because guess what? Watch this one. Watch it. The bonds have already been set for these guys, Democrat style. Want to know what they are? $3,000 to $5,000. You know, when you go get a bond, bail bondsman do, you give them 10%, they let you go and they back the bond. Well, that's like $300 to $500. So ICE said, don't let them go. Hand them to us. They make bonds. We will pick them up. We will come with our van, and a kid doesn't have to get raped today. The Democrat Party loves rape. No, they do. I mean, I don't know whether way you protect people like this. You are a subhuman level of sick. What do you want to bet they'll do? Oh, they're going to let him out. They're not going to honor the ICE detainer. Because they're valuable Democrat voters. You know, folks, you got to say something about the Democrat Party. These people are legal immigrants. They're not even citizens. And just based on the theory that they will probably, given their demographics, vote Democrat, Democrats will do anything for them they can, including break the law. Break the law. They don't care. That's how loyal they are to their voters. And look how Republicans treat their voters. Look at it. Look at this state in the last week. I mean, it is a stark contrast, y'all. Stark. And it's why we lose. It's a choice. Texter writes on the Common Sense Retirement Planning text line. Tara, you were talking about debt and a lot of the blame going to Joe Biden, but wouldn't it be Thune's refusals to pass any more rescission cuts that add to the problem? Oh, yeah. Okay. I didn't mention that today. True. But I am reading that text because it's a good reminder. Yeah, no, we've blistered Thune for that. And to Trump's credit, he tried. He had 10 revisions bills planned. They would have cut roughly $500 billion, not billion, $1 trillion. And we did get the first one through when Trump's approval rating was around 50% and Thune really couldn't stop him. And we did the most important cut. We cut $9 billion from PBS, NPR, and USAID, which had become sort of an alternate Democrat State Department conducting its own foreign policy against America's interest, even when Trump was president. So shutting the doors on that place was a major victory. I mean, huge. A lot of people won't die because we defunded USAID. They were in league with Hamas and the Taliban and every thug in Afghanistan. And I mean, so, when they're like, USAID provided aid. No, they didn't. Nah, 90% of it, as Marco Rubio said, never left D.C. It was used to build Democrat mansions. But the stuff that did leave was used to fund the Taliban and other people. We actually built the Taliban a modern irrigation system, which they then used for their poppy farms. The idea was if we built them an irrigation system, they'd stop growing poppies. They'd just use the irrigation system for the poppies and then use the money to blow our troops' legs off. Funded by the Democrat Party during the last Trump administration. Super exciting. As the Democrat Party runs USAID. So good news for them to shut it down. But yeah, that was just $9 billion. We could have cut just shy of $500 billion, but John Thune refuses to pass any more rescissions packages. So good point. Yes, if you're upset at the fact that we have to raise interest rates, part of it is John Thune. He just, Republican leader of the Senate, just won't let this stuff through. He would rather waste money or fritter it away to, and a lot of it's like waste to Democrat NGOs. Could Democrats keep getting elected in Republican primaries? Thune is a great example of that. And unfortunately, he's in leadership. And you can see it in the Republican leadership of the state of South Carolina, too. I mean, Shane Massey is the main example. I mean, here he is talking about they love Democrats and they're not redrawing Clyburn's district and they don't give a damn if it helps Democrats to win the House of Representatives.
Our state is stronger with vibrant parties. I will tell my Republican friends, Republicans are stronger when the Democrat Party is vibrant and viable. We are. Competition makes you better, y'all. We know it in the economic sector. It also happens in the political sector.
Yeah. Texter writes, good morning, Tara. Would you please share where you found that map overlay of the boat for, Ralph Norman, upstate versus, down country, low country for Darlene Graham, the Patriots and Loyalists you mentioned yesterday. I tried to find it and couldn't. Yeah, it's actually all over Facebook now. I think one guy put it up and it was so cool that a bunch of other people have now copied him. So I keep looking at it, and I can't find it right now while I'm on the air. I'll try to send it to you in a bit if I can. Yeah, texter writes, hey, Tara, if we can put a nuclear reactor on an aircraft carrier, why not for a data center? Then require them to give the extra electricity generated back to the grid to cut power costs. See, I love stuff like that. That's why I think we could really do these data centers. There's got to be a way to do it, especially while Trump's still in office. And, we can, and Trump's actually already done some of this to get the mini nuke generators going for the data centers. He's got a couple of executive orders on it. But yeah, we should be doing that. Absolutely, we should be opening up nuclear power, coal-fired power. And Trump's done a lot of that. But we just have got to win the presidency in 2028. We have to. There's so many things need to be finished that just this country will just, I mean, you're watching this country begin to boom right now. And I'm telling you, we could really kick some butt if we could just hold on for a little longer and Democrats don't get to kneecap the economy again. And one of the things that we're seeing happen right now, U.S. business activity expanding at the fastest pace in more than 4 years. And folks, It's only matched by businesses reopening after the COVID closings. So, I mean, stronger demand, S&P Global Flash US Composite, Purchasing Managers Index climbs to 56. Highest reading since April 2022, again, when businesses were reopening post-COVID, except this is real economic activity. So, folks, there's a lot of great stuff going on. There really, really is. Going to jump back on the Common Sense Retirement Planning text line, which, by the way, my new... I'm going to try to do a better job reading the text line as I go. And I want you to try to do a better job texting the text line. I'd love to hear from more of you. Texter writes here, you can bet Tim Scott won't hesitate writing a check to his own campaign when the time comes. Another texter writes, this family is done donating to the Republican Party. No, I tell you, do not donate to the Republican Party. No. All you're doing is letting them pass through the money. You choose who you donate to. And the best way to do this, folks, find a candidate you like and write them a check. Someone you know and you've really followed their record, you want to reward that record. Write them a check directly. There's nothing stopping you from doing that. Whatever you do, no, don't give to the RNC. Especially don't give to the Republican National Senatorial Committee. That is a disaster. They're just going to spend it on losing races and donate it out, dole it out by who's the biggest rhino. Again, spending money in Michigan is smart. I agree with that. Their other choices are just stupid at this point. They always say you're going to spend money trying to win in Georgia. And I'm like, you going to think you're going to beat Ossoff? Okay, you're going to have to work your ass off. They're just not ready for that. I to let that Texas seat go is insane. We should absolutely contest that. Texter writes, Tara, I wonder if all these fake Republicans in Colombia are already owned by China. Oh, I have no idea. Nothing would surprise me after this week, after watching the Democrat Party and the Republican Party work in tandem to elect Darlene Graham with a spending level by Democrats in a Republican primary openly. That's the thing that kills me. They didn't even move the money around to hide it. They didn't hide it. If you still have your text from the race, go look it up. See, invest in Tomorrow Pack. Right there in your inbox. They didn't say, all you had to do was look it up who they were. And the Daily Signal did. And oh my gosh, they're Democrats. Yeah, they are. They're not hiding it. That's how easy it was to know. And the fact that our Republican leaders didn't say a damn thing in this state tells you everything you need to know. Tells you everything you need to know. Texter writes, Tara, I think Trump wants the Democrats to take the House so that they will go after his family and it will result in Eric Trump being the front runner in 2028. Well, I tell you what, Trump doesn't act like he wants Republicans to win the House. And there are certain advantages for Republicans if Democrats do win the House in 2028. Because otherwise we're totally the incumbent party. So, I mean, there is some of that.